At 1:30, I'll call our February 3rd special meeting to order. All four commissioners are present. If we could go around the room and do introductions real quick. Randy?
Randy Walker from Morrow.
Peterson, Mark Patton, Morrow. Matt Jensen, Morrow County Administrator.
Eileen Hendricks, Port of Morrow. Lisa Milster, Port of Morrow.
Do you go on Zoom for us?
And we'll start with Greg's iPhone.
Hi there, this is Greg Smith, CDA.
Last sites of the Not Here Enterprise.
I couldn't hear anybody. Sam Tucker, attorney for the port.
Tori Griggs, Bourbon Chamber, Bourbon Community Development Association. Also, Brandy, no one can hear you when you're calling names out.
Any louder?
We can hear you. We can hear you just a long ways away.
It's really hard to hear you, Brandy.
Okay.
All right, Aaron Palmquist.
Aaron Palmquist, City of Oregon.
Thank you, Ryan.
If I can come off of mute. Hey, everyone, Ryan Gleason, contract lobbyist for the Port of Morrow.
Carol, Morrow County Planning.
Hi, Tamara Mabott, Morrow County Planning.
Thank you.
Okay. Like everything, name on the comment. Public comment. Okay, first is, new business, ordinance 2025-01, Morrow County, Georgia.
Okay. Want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go right.
Okay. So, first thing in your packet is ordinance 2025-01, ratifying the creation of a public improvement consortium known as the Morrow County Clean Water Consortium. And the reason for this ordinance is it's required by ORS 190-085 to enact this intergovernmental agreement between Port of Morrow and Morrow County.
This is the ordinance that we've been talking to for several months now.
Yes, and we had to advertise it ahead of time to get it on your agenda for approval.
We did put an emergency declaration following Morrow County so that it would be effective right away, so that the conversion could go forward sooner. Otherwise, it would have to have been, I think, 6 days, and then for the second reading, or maybe 10 days for the second reading, I can't remember, and then it was 30 days after that before it could become effective. So we did do it as an emergency, so it could be effective today, and you guys approve.
And the first meeting is tomorrow.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think this is a great opportunity to work with the county and our local partners to try to provide clean, safe water for our communities. So with that, I would move that we approve ordinance number 2025-01, the ordinance ratifying the creation of a public improvement consortium known as the Morrow County Clean Water Consortium.
I would second the motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Sam.
Yes.
I was recently looking at that statute, and it says that if you do not want to read it in its entirety, the board must unanimously approve the waiving of the reading of the entirety and allowing it to be read by title only. So I think to make it proper, probably the commission needs to unanimously waive the reading of the entire ordinance.
So,
That sounds familiar, yes.
Mr. Chair, I would rescind my motion
Okay,
and propose a second one if, the second would agree.
okay, so. John has agreed to for that second on the rescind.
So having said that, Mr. Chair, I would move that we, approve not reading the ordinance in its entirety, on the ordinance number 2025-01.
I'll second that.
Okay, been a motion and a second. I'm not reading the, ordinance in its entirety. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimous. So then we can move forward on the ordinance itself. You want to make it, John?
And I'll make a motion to approve the Port of Morrow Commission's ordinance number 2025-01, the title being ratifying the creation of a public improvement consortium known as the Morrow County Clean Water Consortium in accordance with ORS 190.085.
I would second that.
Okay, any other discussion on the ordinance?
Just to say that Chris, 2 and 3 boards allotted 900,000 to this venture already, so it's off to a good start. Maybe it's a good place to begin with.
I would agree. Okay, hearing no more comment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimous. Okay, next on our agenda is CDA update. And Greg Smith is on the Zoom with his phone. Greg, do you want to give some updates?
Sure, I'll do it very briefly and then try to address any questions you may have. First of all, I'd share with you that our trial hearing regarding the CDA in Umatilla County, Port of Morrow, Port of Umatilla and Morrow County on the 24th of January was canceled. We all showed up all ready to go, and we discovered that the judge had a conflict of interest with one of the Port of Umatilla commissioners. Therefore, he recused himself, and that hearing was canceled. Although my understanding is attorneys from several of the parties went and sat down and had a brief conversation about what it may or could look like to proceed forward. Right there, Mr. Chair, I'd pause and see if Sam wants to add anything to what I shared.
No, Greg summarized it correctly. I did get information that the parties that really, in my opinion, control the outcome of this are Port of Umatilla and Umatilla County, and those primary members sat in a room together and had a constructive conversation. And I understand that possibly the Port of Umatilla will be having some proposals with its board and be in contact with Umatilla County, and then hopefully it can move forward. That's the first glimmer of hope that I have seen in quite a while, that we might be heading towards some resolution of this matter. Greg.
Thank you. Adding to that, Mr. Chair, is a dialogue between the Port of Morrow and the Port of Umatilla as it relates to the payment of legal fees. This is something Lisa and I have had a conversation about. I raised this issue with the Port of Umatilla. They seem very sympathetic to the issue and understanding of the issue. And so I would anticipate in the very near future, the two general managers will come together to determine how the Port of Morrow may be reimbursed for the legal expenses they're incurring as it relates to this ongoing litigation. I would share with you kind of the elephant in the room, and that is the Port of Morrow is dealing with the OLDCC as it relates to budgetary issues and to apparently my personnel issues. I have seen the letter for the first time here recently, and the response. And so, Mr. Chair, I'd probably turn it over to Eileen or Lisa to perhaps explain how that process is proceeding forward.
As far as the, well, OLDCC,
Yes, sir.
I've got a question about just legal fees in general. I might have misheard you on the very first part. Could you restate that?
Mr. Chair, could you say that one more time?
I might have misheard what you said, when you first started about legal fees. Could you state that again?
Yeah, one of the conversations being had, Mr. Chair, is it appropriate for the Port of Morrow to be carrying the legal fees for the litigation between Umatilla County and the CDA and the Port of Umatilla and the Port of Morrow and Morrow County, when really the issue is between Umatilla County and the Port of Umatilla. And so this is a conversation that has been started in the last 2 weeks. And I would anticipate over the next couple of weeks, we're going to continue this conversation. And at the end of the day, I would anticipate, and again, I say anticipate, that the Port of Morrow is going to request to have their legal fees reimbursed by the Port of Umatilla on this case. Now, obviously, I don't speak for the Port of Morrow, I don't speak for Lisa, but I would anticipate this is a conversation that's going to occur.
Greg, this is Sam. Mr. Chairman, could I add something to that?
Yes, please, Sam.
I'm not privy to all these conversations, but if you look at the actual intergovernmental agreement creating this entity, expenses of CDA would be shared equally among all 5 members. And what has happened as a practical matter is the bills have come out and the other members have not contributed. Port of Umatilla may be more inclined, but what I understand is actually, I think the port's position would be that these other entities should contribute also. Greg, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the Port of Morrow's position.
Excellent. No, I wouldn't correct you on that. I just know it's a conversation that needs to occur. We do have, as you said, Sam, board members who have not been contributing. And that's a conversation the CDA board is going to have to address.
So my thought process there was I was going to go to the next CBA meeting with the bills that we should be paying 1/20th of instead of 50% of, so 1/5 of, yeah, 1/5. Yeah, so that's the plan, is we've been incurring expenses on attorney fees that really are a lawsuit between Umatilla County and the CDA. We are 1/5 of the membership of the CDA, we should be paying 1/5 of those bills.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, at the last CDA meeting, didn't Elizabeth Howard speak to that and say that there's nothing in the IGA that actually holds anyone's feet to that fire?
I think she did say it that way, yes.
Yeah, that the IGA was never written with the specific of that, just only, and that was coming from the CDA attorney.
I think
When
that's
she was
what she
questioned on it.
said. I don't know that it's written in there.
Yeah.
That we paid 1/5.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's just assumed.
there's 5 members, there's 5 members.
Yeah.
And the lawsuit is Umatilla County to CDA.
I'm encouraged to hear that there might be communication in Umatilla County between the port and the county court. That's great news. If they can work that out, especially from the fact that, you know, we have bills coming due, we have projects that need done, whether it's roads or environmental projects or historical projects that we need to accomplish, or access to our ground. If the CBA or and correct me if I'm wrong, if the military closes off access, you know, keep crossing their access to get to Morrow County side. Those things are of concern to me. So if we can, I think it's good if we can get past that. I want to hear as we go through the process. So I do want to hear what the response from OLDCC is to our letter back to them. I know our meeting's in 10 days, but I really need to hear, hopefully in the affirmative, that we're moving forward on that and resolving that difference. Yes.
Currently, on Friday, we received an email saying they had received our response. That's all we know right now.
Okay, and so we don't know if the suspension is still in effect then, right? Or it is in effect until released? Suspension of funds, yeah, we don't know. Okay, hopefully we do in 10 days have
Yeah.
an update.
So did I miss Lisa's response to the OLDCC issue?
We don't have a response right now. Hopefully we'll have a response from them by our next meeting and we will bring it to you.
So we're waiting for a response from, okay,
All they've done is acknowledge that they received our letter back,
okay.
which you have a copy of.
There was like 4 questions there they were asking.
They were-
I think 2 of them are the same question, but yes.
Greg, what is the timeline for some of the projects? I know that you were concerned about them months ago, about satisfying the requirements that we had to put in that I mentioned just a few minutes ago. What type of timeline do we have on that, or the thoughts?
Yeah, one of the significant projects we said we would complete with the OLDCC is making sure that our preservation of the Oregon Trail and the explosion site were completed. We believe we will meet that deadline. In addition, a second major project we discussed with them is that we would begin construction on the road project, the ODOT road project from House Bill 2017. We believe we're going to be able to meet that project benchmark, as well as we anticipate going to construction here in the next month or so. Right now, IRZ Consulting, along with Anderson Perry, is working through the bidding process. So those are the 2 big projects we said we needed to complete.
Budget shortfall, wasn't there though, Greg, between the grants that we received, wasn't it 7 million or something like that, and versus 12 million for total price of the roads?
Yeah, I don't know, Commissioner, if I'd necessarily call it a shortfall. Rather,
Okay.
these are the dollars we have, and our intention was to build as far and as long as those dollars would take us. If we were desiring to complete the entire length of the road, then yes, we would need to raise an additional 5 million. But I just want to be really clear, it was never the intent that we were going to complete the entire road. Rather, it was we were going to build what we could afford.
And resolve the access issue, I would assume too.
Correct.
Okay.
And then one of the other, the third major commitment we have within the grant is that we would complete the property line adjustment and the land transfer to C2IR. I could share with the port, the CDA has done everything within its power to make this occur. Right now, we're waiting on the planning department within Umatilla County to assist us in this effort. And thus far, we have not heard anything back from them. And so that will be one of the projects that we'll have to continue to negotiate with OLDCC.
Greg, I asked you earlier about the access. Commissioner Doherty had asked about it off of Interstate 84. And
Yes,
your
sir.
response was back that I guess there was a verbal agreement that the National Guard would allow us to pass through there until projects came. Did you explain that to?
Yeah, so it's important to understand that I inherited a pre-drawn map of what would constitute industrial lands on the Morrow County side and what would constitute industrial lands on the Umatilla County side, what would be set aside for habitat, et cetera. On the Morrow County side, we do have access for industrial development. However, that access is going to need to be developed. It's going to need to be built. In the meantime, we have an agreement with the Oregon Military Department, of which I reaffirmed last week, that we have access through the Oregon Military Department property to our property for occasional use. For example, if we had somebody who wanted to go out there and dig test wells, they could come through the Oregon Military Department. In return, we've agreed that we would allow them access off of I-82 through the CDA property to get to their real estate. They need access off of I-82 for equipment that may be too large to take under the underpass, or the underpass, or maybe too wide, et cetera. And so we have a reciprocal agreement where we mutually agree to provide access to one another.
Property that was proposed to be sold to help fund some of these projects, Greg, is it still, are you still hearing that that could happen? And then I kind of heard the different things about, is that land tied up in the lawsuit, which I didn't know if it was or not, because it's not available or wouldn't be available if it was until it was resolved. So another good reason that Umatilla and the Port of Umatilla might be talking about is that, is it still looking positive or?
Yeah, so what I can share with you is we've been working with our legal counsel at Schwabe, Williamson and Wyatt to draft a motion for the board for our February meeting. I do have that motion. I do not have it in front of me, but I do have it. And my intent is to put that on the agenda and bring it forward to the board for consideration. With that said, yes, there is the potential, and I only say potential because I have not received affirmative word yet, that that could be held up in this litigation. As soon as I know for sure that that would occur, I could let you know. One of the issues I'd add to that, Commissioner, is where that sale of real estate may take place. There may be economic benefit to the Port of Morrow to have that sale occur on the Morrow County side of the line versus the Umatilla County side. And I would leave that discussion for you folks with Lisa. And so where I'm going with that, Commissioners, the final location of that 100 acres still needs to be determined by the board.
So then going back to the beginning of this discussion, Greg, where the judge recused himself. I assume he could have done that 2 months earlier, right?
Mr. Chair, I would have thought so as well. So.
And I guess my question, would be to move it to Sam, is that a normal way of these judges go about it?
That was an unusual situation which Judge Collins was facing 10 or 12 Portland attorneys who had traveled up there, and he apologized profusely and tried to explain how he had a conflict. And no, that was unusual. No, that was very unfortunate. The only thing good I can say is that because everybody came up there, the principals who are responsible for deciding this thing were able to sit down and talk civilly to each other. And so maybe Nope, it was wrong. It was a mistake. It shouldn't have happened like that, but maybe something good will come of it.
Anything else for Greg? Any other questions on CDA? I got one other thing I'd like to ask Greg. I think I've asked it before. Well, I know I have. Is that here in January, you canceled our meeting. And I know our bylaws say we're supposed to have a meeting at least once a quarter. But, it's very frustrating when we've got a lot of things that we need to take care of. And a meeting gets canceled. So I would ask you not cancel any more meetings. If you could, please.
So I appreciate that, Mr. Chair, and I will raise that issue with the chair of the CDA.
Thank you. Anything else on CDA? Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Greg. We'll move on to House Bill 2797 discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I could, I would like to read the state.
Yes.
I apologize, I'm still fighting to throw it out the candidates. Fellow Commissioners, I strongly urge you to oppose House Bill 2797, which proposes adding 2 governor-appointed commissioners to our board. This measure undermines the democratic process, erodes local control, and induces potential political influence that can undermine the interests of our community. While I understand Representative Smith's intention to modernize the commission, I believe that appointing commissioners based solely on trade sector experience could result in undue influence from special interest groups. This shift may compromise our ability to serve the broader interests of Morrow County and the diverse needs of our community. Democratic accountability is the cornerstone of our governance, particularly at the local level. The voters of Morrow County should have the power to determine who represents them, especially when it comes to managing critical economic assets like the Port of Morrow. Local control ensures that decisions are made by those who understand the community's unique needs. Rather than removing voters from the decision-making process, I'm going to request and ask Representative Smith to reconsider this proposal and support our current commission structure, a balanced approach combining professional qualifications and local accountability. It is essential for continued success and sustainability for the Port of Morrow. I ask you to vote against House Bill 2797 to stand firm in preserving the democratic process and local control that our community rightfully deserves. Thank you.
Well said.
Mr. Chair, may I address the commission?
Just one second. We're okay. We're in a discussion with us before Greg.
Please.
Okay, go right ahead, Greg.
So commission, my job as a state representative is to follow the lead of the folks who have sent me to Salem. My job is to listen and to address the concerns that are brought forward to me. I would share with you this legislation was originally introduced as a result of several folks who represent industry within the Port of Morrow, and hence I dropped the bill. Since then, I have spent numerous hours with Commissioner Stucco, having him share with me his thoughts and concerns as it relates to this piece of legislation. I've had chances to ponder this legislation, and as a result of Commissioner Stucco's guidance, I have taken my name off the bill, which effectively kills this legislation. I would share with you, I guess I would contend there has been no greater friend of the Port of Morrow than myself. And I would share that my interest in this piece of legislation was not to take away from the port, but add to it. But then again, after visiting with Commissioner Stucco, I genuinely see where my legislation is not necessary at this time. And so again, I have pulled my name. And Commissioner Stucco, I want to thank you tremendously for the guidance you have provided me. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg, for your consideration on that bill. And like I said, our conversations have been good conversations, and there might be arguments as to why we might want to consider more commissioners to the board, but I think that needs to be on a local level and not at the governor or state level. So thank you for your reconsideration on this.
Nope, I appreciate you.
So yes, I would not have supported this myself either. Just so the
I
board
would
knows.
not, and I
Yeah.
almost like to share followed up on them that it does die.
Yes, that was my thought too, Greg, but you say you take the name off and it essentially dies, but how do we know for sure? What's our next step in, I guess, keeping track of that?
Well, gang, there's this legislative process that I've followed for nearly 25 years. And I intend to continue to follow that, which means I will make sure the bill does not proceed forward. Without my name on it, there's no sponsor of the legislation and hence it dies.
We can also ask Brian to follow up on that.
Okay.
So gang, I would remind you, there's no better friend of the Port of Morrow than myself. And I will make sure the legislation is dead.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Go ahead.
So Greg, not to keep pondering this, but in our conversations, you brought up some of the reasonings for having 7 commission board. I don't know if all the commissioners understand that. I've not had any conversations with them. And maybe some of that could be something that would be beneficial to the port. Maybe you should touch on that, or could you touch on that as to the benefits of what you were proposing?
You know, what I'd share with you, commissioners, is that industry leaders who have significant investments within the Port of Morrow are the folks who brought this concept to me. And their thought process that they shared with me is that we may be able to add additional expertise and stability to the port at critical times. For example, perhaps there's, I'm making this up completely, an attorney that is an expert in water law that perhaps could benefit the port over a period of 4 years. Perhaps there's somebody in transportation, et cetera. With that said, part of the goal was to see if the Port of Morrow could become the international Port of Morrow. And there's a process for that to occur. The Port of Portland and the Port of Coos Bay both are international ports. Now, granted, we do not have significant container activity that would constitute the need for an international status, but we do have an airstrip and we do have other pieces of infrastructure that may be of benefit. Now, with that said, gang, I've pulled my name from the piece of legislation. The legislation is going no further. If at some future point in time, you folks would like to consider how to expand the commission to bring in that additional expertise and perhaps stability, please let me know. But in the meantime, I have pulled the bill.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks, Greg.
thank you.
I honestly would be interested in an advisory committee if need be from different aspects of the area. That would help us to be better informed, whether it's one from industry or 2 from industry, 1 from wood farming community, those kinds of things. I'd be interested in hearing about something like that. They want to serve on that, give us some guidance on issues going forward. Just a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on then, we'll move on to House Bill 2725 discussion. You have that in your packet also. And that's what Commissioner Peterson's here to discuss.
Certainly, do you have the letter that the Morrow County Board of Commissioners sent in your packet? We do, I will not.
We did. But before we get going here, guys, bear with me. Any other information we need on this, Lisa, or anything that commissioners want to?
I think we'll have Ryan, wrap up at the end of this conversation. with
Okay.
history.
What might be beneficial for me to hear right at the beginning of it, what does this bill say specifically? I know we're accepted out, it looks like we are, but give me the precise and concise, Cliff's Notes version of this bill, please.
Hi, commissioners. Thank you. It's great to be here with you, and happy to take that question. From my understanding, House Bill 2725 is going to be changing. There's going to be an amendment coming forward that would actually change the structure entirely. So ports west of Cascade Locks, it would apply to land that is port owned, and then ports east of Cascade Locks, it would be ports district wide. The SIP would apply, and they would be able to participate district-wide. And so we have not seen language yet. That is something that Mark Landauer is negotiating on behalf of the Public Ports Association. And as soon as I have that, I will share that with you. I've been keeping Lisa informed as that those conversations have gone on, and she participates in the OPPA conversations. I do want to make sure that you are aware, and I think once I'm done, Lisa will share some information about SIPs and E-zones before we hand it off to Morrow County. But I want to take you back in time just a couple years, not too far, to House Bill 2009, just to give you a little bit of background to why we are here. House Bill 2009 was a carefully negotiated piece of economic development legislation relating to multiple economic development programs, most importantly, E-zones and SIPs. But that was the original piece of legislation that gave ports specifically the ability to participate in SIP agreements. And at no point did it, was the legislative intent to only focus on the Port of Morrow versus other ports. It was, ports writ large. And so the intent for Hillsborough, the city of Hillsborough coming forward in 2024, and then subsequent language with this vehicle of 2725 to create a fix. They have the Port of Portland stretching all the way into the city of Hillsborough. They are trying to find a fix for their particular issue, not to take ports out of the SIP program entirely. And so I just want to give you that background of why we're here having this conversation. And then Lisa, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about SIPs and E-zones and us being partners with the county. So I'll stop there.
Okay, so the county had a special meeting on Friday morning. I got invited to that by Dave Sykes, and I was on the phone with him about another matter 8:45 on Friday. And he said, "Hey, are you joining the meeting?" And I said, "Sure, but I'm not going to talk." And then I'm like, "No, I think I'll talk." Anyway, so I attended the meeting. It was 30 minutes, and it was a chance for the commissioners to discuss their position here, and basically the letter that you received was in their packet, and they approved moving forward with the letter as written. So what I can tell you, and what I told them on Friday morning, was this is an incentive tool. It's a program by the state of Oregon for statewide incentives, and currently we are eligible to participate in strategic investment program applications and review. Right now,
Eligible, or we are part of it, or
we are currently part of it.
currently part of it,
Ports are currently in,
on
So-
agreements, or on that, yeah.
yes,
For a project anywhere in the county,
anywhere in the county.
Okay.
Yes,
because we're a countywide port district,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
Not necessarily that we own the land.
No, No, one of the versions, I believe, was to, one of the discussions was to talk about whether it was just on port-owned land or not port-owned land, but it's based right now on countywide of the boundaries of the district. So we share a district. I let the county commissioners know that we want to be partners with them, that we think this is a good program and a good tool. And we want to be partners. This is not a money grab, as we have been hearing. It is about working together for the good of the citizens of Morrow County. And right now, we are also partnered to the enterprise zone. And I do believe that there are situations where an applicant could come in and we meet with them all the time, someone coming in cold to visit, to talk about a project, and you go through, you know, your sites and your costs and your workforce development, and then we get to incentives. And we get to talk about incentives with two different programs that ultimately that applicant could pit one against the other to try and work out the best deal they could. And that doesn't put us and the county in a very good spot to continue to work together. Then we would be in half of those conversations and not the other half. I think this is an opportunity, again, for us to continue to work together for the good of our communities.
And Lisa, if I could just add really quickly, this is a really important economic development tool that we were added to in 2023, and it would be unwise of us to take ourselves out of it in 2025.
And the first discussions, I believe, of taking ports out started in January 2024, and nothing happened last year.
And to clarify that, sorry, Lisa, it was not to take ports out. It was to fix the issue that Hillsborough was experiencing with the Port of Portland due to Hillsborough's airport stretching all the way into the city of Hillsborough. Again, this never was supposed to evolve into taking ports out or limiting ports' abilities to participate in this program. It was simply to fix this small unintended consequence that is impacting the city of Hillsborough and no other local government.
County, what the thought was there, please.
Okay, go right on.
So I'm gonna read the letter verbatim if that's okay, because that's the county's position, and then I'll speak afterwards, and that'll be me speaking. I just wanna make that very clear. What I read, that's county, afterwards. Okay, dear Port Commission, House Bill 2725 is a much needed correction to address the proper role of ports and county SIP agreements. This has been an issue that Oregon counties have wanted addressed since the passage of House Bill 2009 in 2023 that required port involvement in county SIP agreements. The Morrow County Board of Commissioners support this correction to the previously established norm where ports were involved in SIP agreements that involved their property, and that the counties have the authority to negotiate SIP agreements outside of the port-owned property. That said, the Board of Commissioners are concerned that House Bill 2725 singles out a few specific ports in the state to retain the House Bill 2009 status as required participants in all county SIP agreements, including the Port of Morrow. This results in a state mandated exception that few other counties must face. We acknowledge that the Port Commission and the county's Board of Commissioners have not always seen eye to eye. However, there has been significant progress towards working as trusted partners with the shared goal of serving Morrow County. We want that to continue and ask the Port Commission to support proper legislation to return the language regarding SIP agreements to pre-House Bill 2009 standards as a sign of good faith that we can work together without a legislative mandate. We request that the Port Commission formally state that they are opposed to the House Bill 2009 impacts of ports being involved in county SIP agreements outside of port-owned property, and to direct staff to make this opinion clear to the Oregon Public Ports Association and state legislators. So that was the board's opinion. After that, it's me speaking. Just to address some of those things that have been said, all counties and the Association of Oregon Counties, this has been an issue since the bill was passed, and it has been something that Oregon counties have wanted corrected since then. The language that has been brought up as only ports east of Cascade locks, is my opinion that sounds like, why are we coming up with the most specific language to only include a couple of ports to maintain this when everybody else is stepping back? This seems to me like we are being targeted, and if everyone else is on board with maintaining SIP agreements as something that happens when you own the property, when that is involved, why are we chunking out just 2 ports to only be the only ports in the state of Oregon to have that authority? That to me seems wrong, like a massive overstep. That's my opinion. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I really appreciate it.
I have a question.
Yes, oh, go ahead, Joe.
How, under pre-2009 2009 bill, how could the port work together with the county?
So if we were doing a SIP agreement that was, say, outside of Ione and it was windmills, and if we wanted the port to be involved, we would ask you guys. And if not, and if the port had no involvement, the port wouldn't partner with that. But
is there a mechanism to partner?
well, yeah, we asked and we worked together. That's how I envision partnership, is that it's a voluntary thing. That's me.
So same question.
Yeah.
If the if the port has an agreement, the county automatically gets a seat at the table, correct?
Correct.
So if it's port on the property, you're gonna be deciding what happens on port of the property. County is,
Kind of like to say that's correct.
right? But it doesn't go the same in return with the thing. The port having to say with what goes on in the county's agreement.
Correct. And
That's not working together.
that's for me a distinguishment between what is the port and what is the county. And
The port is in the county as well.
If I could, I think that we should ask Greg Smith his opinion here and go back to Ryan for a minute about history.
Okay.
Sure. So gang, I appreciate the chance to address HB 2009. This was a piece of legislation that Chair Nathanson and myself worked diligently on. As folks may not know, I serve as the senior member on the Revenue Committee. And this issue is near and dear to me. I'd like folks to remember that District 57 represents the Port of Umatilla, the Port of Morrow, the Port of Arlington, Biggs Junction, and the Port of the Dalles. And I want to make sure that these economic development industries have every tool available to them. And so the language that we're addressing today as it relates to SIP agreements was drafted by me for the purpose of ensuring that our ports have this tool available to them. Now, I want to be really, really clear in House Bill 2009. I have met with the city of Hillsborough multiple times. I've shared with them if they will bring me legislation that does not harm my counties or my ports, I will work with them. They have yet to do that. In addition, I would share with everyone that there's nothing in House Bill 2009 that prohibits the county and the port from reaching an agreement on a SIP as to who will partner and who will not. And as the county and the port, in this case, Morrow and the Port of Morrow, continue to build their relationship, I would hope they'd have those conversations. But at the end of the day, the Port of Morrow is a countywide port authority. They're our economic engine. They have done tremendous work in creating jobs and tax revenue for the county. And I'm adamant that they be part of House Bill 2009. And so, again, I would hope the port and the county would work together to determine how they want to proceed forward in its management. But I do not foresee an amendment to House Bill 2009 coming this session. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ryan, are you referring to an amendment to this bill then, to 2725 coming? It's likely coming, what mentions east of the Cascades, that kind of thing.
Thanks, Commissioner. Yes, that's what I had been told from Mark Landauer with the Oregon Public Ports Association, is that they have been negotiating, Mark and the city of Hillsborough, language that would, I said Cascade locks, but it would use other markers essentially to identify, yes, ports essentially east of Cascade locks would stay in district wide, and then west of Cascade locks would be on port owned. That was something that the Ports Association had come to an agreement on. And thank you, Representative Smith, for putting out there that yes, at no point in House Bill 2009 was this strictly limited to the Port of Morrow. This was for all ports to participate in because it is such an important economic development tool, and we would love to keep the Port of Morrow and all other ports in this. And if this is legislation that other ports would like to see in the program, and if they are fine limiting themselves, great. But we are not, and ports east, we do not want to be limited. And so we'll continue to work with Representative Smith on legislation per your direction. Happy to answer any other questions.
So I'm trying to be clear. So currently, Port of Morrow is involved in any SIPs.
Yes,
Based on the bill, I keep getting that, thinking it's 2009, but
Right.
it's not a year, but a number.
right.
And this, what we're talking about is taking a few ports out of that agreement, but not all. Is that? Okay.
It is proposing limiting their ability to port-owned land for specific ports. Again, proposing. The bill has not passed.
Right.
So, yeah, this one's secretary. Matt Jensen with Morrow County. First of all, on a special note, I just want to say thank you for your partnership on the Clean Water Consortium. That's an example of how partnerships need to go. This bill and some of the actions on this is partly because of me asking some questions. When we found out, actually, we were informed by our county assessor about HB 2009 and its impacts, and we were surprised. And as I reached out to the Association of Counties, they weren't really aware of the lingering impacts there either. Initially, I was told that this was HB 2009 was from an issue at Coos Bay, where supposedly a county had implemented a SIP agreement within the port boundaries, so trumping the port's authority. And I'm like, well, that's not good. As I looked into House Bill 2009, the language to include ports did not come. It was not part of the initial HB 2009. It was the 15th committee meeting. It was the last committee meeting in the reconciliation committee before it was passed. And that amendment was put into writing. It was the last item, and there was no discussion on it. So I questioned, the HB 2009 was a very widespread economic development. It included special districts having a say in SIPs, where the counties need to make sure that particularly fire districts were represented and got a fair share of any SIP agreements. The actual language, and I went back and I watched the recordings, was the last item before it was approved to go back to the board, and it was not discussed.
in that committee. Initially, the question was, is this port owned or port district? And the attorneys came back and said, it's district, it just says port, so that's the district. As I contacted Business Oregon to get some more information on it, I was talking with our fish and he's like, I'm like, you gotta tell me how this happened with Coos Bay. Do you know what that issue is? He says, Matt, I don't know anything about Coos Bay. This was from Representative Greg Smith and the Port of Morrow. That's what he said. So, that's when we took a different direction. And with, as I reached out to Representative Smith and we had a good conversation about it. His response was, until you can show that you can work friendly with the port, I'm in support of this. As we look at it, the initial bill, HB 2009, impacted 23 ports in 14 counties. Some of these ports are nothing more than a marina with a few amenities. So this carefully thought economic development plan that was added in at the last hour on the last consideration of HB 2009, it more or less ended up having 14 counties drop their wallet. And now that it's been seen and the impact of it, most of the counties are willing to turn it back over, to turn that wallet, that power back over to the county. In regards to this, one of the, the bill as it says right now, 2725, says only industrial parks or only ports with 4 or more industrial parks. This was proposed by Hillsborough. They didn't realize that the Port of Portland technically has 5, and so it would still be them. And in a meeting with their lobbyists, Representative Levy and Mark Landauer, I pointed that out, and they kind of just went quiet. It also impacts the Port of Columbia. And so they now are looking at new language. And more or less, it's just too limited to these ports, as Representative Smith says. I understand the partnership needs of working with the port, with the county, with the cities. And there's times when we need to do that. And there's times when we will not always see eye to eye. And there are areas of expertise and authority where the port reigns supreme, or the county reigns supreme, or the city reigns supreme. And there needs to be respect on this. My concern with the current legislation is it's gonna make Morrow County, Port of Morrow, Port of Umatilla County exceptions to what's out there in the rest of the state. I've spoke to representatives of all the counties along the Columbia River, all of them are asked this. And they're like, whatever we need to do, we need to get, you've got our support. Talking with the Association of Counties, they're like, this one flew through us. We did not see it. It literally came in as a last minute addition. Now, we understand where it would, suddenly you're at the table and you can have almost a veto say in any of the agreements that we bring forward. And I'll say, it's an interesting timing where the county decided to do a SIP in 2023 with AWS data center on Bombing Range Run, which was not in the CREZ area, so they went with a SIP. Now, the port was still heavily involved with that. Wastewater, regular water provided there. AWS provided infrastructure for that. But you were cut out of the community development fee. And that wasn't separated with you. The counties used that amount to help with several good projects. I mean, we're using it for the daycare and for helping implement additional funds for seniors. And so we're still looking out for the good of the county. And I'll tell you, right there on the border, maybe we should have had a better agreement with the port on it. But right now we're looking at SIP agreements for wind turbine energy, for solar energy, for battery storage, for these energy projects. And these things, which may or may not have much more leg to them because of the federal, requirements right now, they're changing. But I don't know how much support needs to be directly involved in those. We've done several successfully, distributing those monies to special districts and everything. And it's just another layer of bureaucracy and red tape that prospective developers have to come through. Another level where they might have to check boxes or write an additional check. I don't think this is all about money grabbing. There's a part of it you want to say. And right now, through a last minute amendment, HB 2009, all boards have a say in every county they are, where their district is. I respect the Port District. You are an economic engine, the biggest economic engine in the county. That's important. So you should have a tax base from the whole county, because everything you do impacts the whole county. But a solar energy cell up on the south end of the county doesn't really impact the port. And that's something that the county can do, and we've done energy projects, I think fairly successfully. And we're striving to try to distribute money in a responsible way. So this is a part where this SIP agreement, and unfortunately, I've gotten marching orders from other representatives and from the OPPA saying, if you can have the Port of Commission say, we're okay with going back to the HB 2000, pre-HB 2009, we'll forget this. And we'll sign them. And that's why we come to you directly. Because the finger's being pointed that it's the Port of Morrow that helped get this going. And so we come to you with this letter asking for your assistance. And really, yes, it's turning back over found money. But we might be one of the only 4 that doesn't turn that money back over if you support this legislation. All the other counties are getting it back. And just particularly, Umatilla, Morrow, and it can extend to some of these others. But it's really being targeted just for our area. And I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about state mandates that come down and impose, issues on us. We just reviewed another bill where we're worried about state control of local interests. That's what's happening here as well. We've had state legislation change the way that we do things here. And really, if we need to come through with an agreement for how to work together on projects, let's sit down at the table and do it and not be required by state legislation on those things. So I respectfully ask the Port Commission's consideration on a position for this legislation. We're committed to try to restore county power on SIPs. We'd like to have your support, or at least kind of nudge us in the right direction. That would be good for you, because we also want to respect the power of the boards in their duly authorized areas. Thank you for your time.
Yes. I would ask this commission, were any of these commissioners present ever informed about this legislation in 23 or recently? I've never heard of this until after it was already done. Staff, did we have any discussions with anybody about the Port of Morrow supporting or running this bill through?
No.
That irritates me. That kind of comment is inappropriate. We had nothing to do with this. The assertion that the Port of Morrow is driving this is simply not true.
May I speak to that?
Yes.
We had it, and both Matt and I and Representative Levy can speak to Mark Land. You are saying specifically that the Port of Morrow is the reason that we are doing this. If you can convince the port to drop it, then we will drop it. We have gotten it from the head of the Oregon Ports Public Association that they have it from here. So that's where we got that from.
That's 2 different conversations, so. That isn't the origins of 2009. That is to move forward with 2725. That's what Mark Lando Power is referring to, not 2009. Because we weren't involved in 2009.
We didn't know anything about
So that's just, that just simply didn't happen, so. I want to go back to the SIP agreement on the Hungary. The Port of Morrow was effectively cut out of those discussions. Our water, whatever, I don't know what that's about. We were cut out from the county in those SIP agreements, period. That is not working together. And as I said in my meeting the other night, with the city county court, we have got to start working together for the best interest of Morrow County in this region. And even though I knew nothing about this language that proposes SIP agreements, I don't see the negative of us working together. Again, we've talked about pitting SIP agreements against SIP agreements or CRES agreements against SIP agreements. It's not good when we have that kind of issue. It's going to drive conversations we don't need to go down. I can't get there. What is the negative of Morrow County and the Port of Morrow working together?
There's no negative to working together. The potential negative, and I mentioned this on the meeting on Friday, is actually not with this board. The potential negative is 10 years down the road, and we have a board that doesn't want to have any economic development in county. It's a possibility. It's something that could happen. And then, if this language were to occur, that board would then have the power to say, we don't want anything going on in the south end, or we don't want anything going on outside of Perez, so we're just gonna say no.
But I could argue your argument the same in return,
Mhm.
okay? This makes us play nice.
Mhm.
This makes us play nice together, or we're not gonna get anything done. And again, when we're not working together for the best interest of our communities, we fight. We fight, and over money. That has been the drive of everything evil that's going on in this county right now, and I'm tired of it. We do great things when we work together as a team. We move mountains. We are the poster child of how things used to be. Not today. Because of money. So we've got to figure out how to figure this out. I don't see how working together to accomplish a goal. I would agree with Matt that, okay, maybe we should come up with an IGA and how we can do this locally so it's not mandated. But has that happened? No, we get a letter saying, gee, we want you guys to pull yourself out of something that is extremely important to the port and the development of economics in this region. Why would we want to take ourselves out of it when we were cut out effectively in the last SIP agreement? That doesn't make sense. So let's find a way to work together for the best interest. Last thing I would say, would it make sense for me to come to you and say, okay, the port's gonna continue to do SIP agreements, but we don't want you to be part of that. We want total control of the SIP agreement on port-owned property. Would you guys agree to that?
We talked about it.
Would you agree to it? Would you be offended if I come and ask you to?
I would not be offended if
Yeah.
you came next. No, I would.
Well,
There it is.
I mean, SIP agreements are specifically a county designated, facility.
There's
Not anymore.
city, county, and ports.
Okay,
Chris,
Chris.
SIP agreements too, city, county, and port.
So with the county, I mean, as you do this, I mean, one of the reasons, I mean, and I guess the question would be, would you be in support of this legislation where it's more or less limiting, so it's only our few counties that are under this requirement?
So again, Matt, as far as the exact language, I read through the bill.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. I don't like being different than other parts, but we are different. We are the second largest port in the state. And so with that comes different responsibilities. I think there's discussions to be had, but I don't think asking us to voluntarily remove ourselves from the SIP process makes sense to me.
And just to, I mean, this is not something you asked for, and we're asking you to change your mind. You accidentally got this power.
well, we have it now. Now it's an
Of
incentive,
course.
it's a tool in our toolbox.
It's
Not
bound
like
in
the
law.
enterprise.
If you want to keep the
But-
money for
Lisa, can I clarify something? I just heard, is it that someone just said that we were accidentally added? We were not accidentally added to this program. We were added to the program. And now there are entities that would like us removed from the program. We would not like to be removed from the program if that is the direction that the Port Commission would like to go.
One last point, just to let you know, because of this question that there's another House bill that you should be aware of, and that's 2377. This is another bill that was brought up because of this. Representative Levy's sponsored it, and I'm not too keen on that either. And what it is it's proposing a study on the proper roles of economic development powers of the port. So the state's gonna open up that can of worms. I would rather figure a way to put this as water under the bridge and show that we are partners in our right realms. I didn't ask Levy to do that. That was her kind of response to push it off on the study. It concerns me because it's another kind of top-down kind of approach on relationships.
Ryan, can you give a little briefing of 2377? I thought it was about the economic benefit of ports.
Yeah, I have it pulled up. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Commission. So it requires the Oregon Business Development Department, Business Oregon, to study the economic development of ports in Oregon. So that's a summary. So directs the department to submit a report of the study to the interim committees of the legislature. So this is just a typical study bill. Also, these bills look like placeholders. So this is something that Representative Levy could potentially essentially stuff like another additional language into if she'd like to expand the language of the study that she's looking to do, if that's the case, per Matt, or if she is looking to utilize it for something else that can fit into the relating to clause, which is relating to ports.
Mr. Chair, I think we're kind of getting off with jumping on to a different discussion with 2377, since it's on our agenda, so yeah. It would be interesting to hear, know more about that bill. I know nothing, this is the first I've heard it, so I will do some research into it. And back to, I can tell you that the Port of Morrow, the assertion that it's a money grab for either the Port of Morrow or the county, I think is just ridiculous, because 90% of the time we don't get the money from it anyway. We try to make sure that that goes out to our special districts and our partners in different programs. So, but outside of this room, there's conversation. This is a money grab for the port. Remind everybody the Port of Morrow had nothing to do with this language, period. Absolutely nothing. I'm gonna say that we need to work together. It just makes no sense to me to fight. It's just not good for our communities. Let's figure a way to do this together and not against each other.
I guess I would just like to say that now that I know more about this, I would like to table this and bring it forward on the agenda for our meeting in 10 days. I don't think that delay would be unacceptable or the timing would be bad. I need to hear from other people. I've heard both sides of it. I really have. And so if it's, that's my feeling. I'm not ready to make a vote yea or nay on this, on supporting or not supporting. I need to get more information. I'm afraid, so I apologize.
And on the flip side, I'm ready to make a decision, so.
I see this as the way it's set up now is it shows customers, projects, whatever you want to call it. They come into Morrow County that, hey, these two entities are working together. You gotta go here, you gotta go here. They gotta come together and make an agreement to get a project landed. And if they see that, oh, the court's gonna agree to something, but the county's not, that's tough to get over. It's tough to get over. So it is like a mechanism to force us to work together. I don't have any trouble Long John's gonna have to table, or next, get a little more information.
Mr. Chair, if I could just make one more quick comment that I think would be helpful for the conversation. Having worked for a legislator before, I do, and Representative Smith is here too, so he can comment on this if he finds it helpful. But oftentimes, legislators, they will make decisions on the fly as legislation is moving really quickly. Especially when these bills are being negotiated, things are moving really fast towards the end of session. They will do things in the best interest of their district, and oftentimes things can't be communicated back as quickly as we'd like or as quickly as possible. Just because that didn't happen, it is in the best interest of the port. And and if Representative Smith would like to speak to that, that legislators do that all the time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I was in an office that did that. They're looking out for their district. They're trying to ensure that their district has the best tools in the tool belt to, you know, in this case, have economic development for the Port of Morrow. And so I just wanted to leave you with that as you're making your decision.
Morrow County is not lacking the ability to bring industry here, whether it's the Port of Morrow or it's wind energy in the county or solar. We're blessed with many opportunities. And so, and a lot of it is due to the work of the port and previous commissioners and commissions. So I guess I'm just saying, I just need more time to think about it. I'm not saying that I'm a port commissioner, right? I'm not a county commissioner, I'm a port commissioner, and my job is to look out for the port, and the people of the port, that we serve, the county citizens, and so I'm in a quandary at the moment. I understand tools in the toolbox, I understand the efforts of legislators to empower the port, I really do, I'm weighing them all right now. So, but I'm just not ready to come down one side or the other. The comments I've heard from people throughout the county is, it looks like control issue and a grab for money. I don't take anything at face value without considering it. And so I'm not saying that's where I believe, but I just need time to think about it. Sorry, not indecisive at the moment.
So I get what you're saying now. I just want to say that I don't see us being a negative in the picture to move forward. We look out for the entire county, so we're not going to be the one trying to stifle projects moving forward. We've never done that. I can't ever see us do that. I think again, it's working together for the best interest of all of Morrow County, but even more than that, the region. We being the second largest port, especially in this area, what we decide on this issue is going to affect other ports around the state. And so we need to look at that as well. That overreaching or effect. Well, thank you.
My brothers is that we figure this out ourselves instead of in Salem. And I would be for tabling it, but I also what you're asking, but it currently is Port of Morrow is part of SIP agreements.
Correct.
That's current, and this bill. You're in essence asking for a new bill to change that, correct? So this bill, so
it would remove us
from the state required, instead.
Yes, that's what we were asking for. Is that this removes most other ports.
I guess, what would it take to agree to work together?
I think having an intergovernmental agreement that we hashed out ourselves, I think that would be better.
That would be
awesome.
Maybe we can do
But I
both.
can't,
Yeah,
maybe we could.
we could go ahead and do it,
That would be-
intergovernmental agreement. We'll work towards that.
I think there's discussions to be had.
To be had,
absolutely, because,
yeah.
again, I like the local control,
But
we can't necessarily go to the state law either. So
Right.
we just have to make sure we legally do what we wanted to do.
Okay,
We currently have an intergovernmental agreement on PRES. It would be no different than that.
I would think so.
okay,
We haven't had a project come before us where we've had to meet yet. But before we do that, we should have an intergovernmental agreement that says how it's gonna work.
okay.
And I guess I would reiterate, I know Rick brought it up, but on Friday at the meeting, the reason that you were concerned was because this board couldn't change. People could change, but people at the county can change as well. And I thought I made that clear on Friday too. This is a mechanism that forces us to get to work together, which is what we really want to do.
Another question about where the money's spent. When the money goes to the county, where do they spend the money? And when the money comes to the port, where would the port spend the money?
Well, if I can, typically it's been,
Ask.
especially at least with the last civic agreement, a good majority of that money was, sent out to the special districts. But they got a good percentage of that.
Okay, currently, community service fee is 25% of the value of the project up to a maximum of 3 million. And originally, those funds were limited to 500,000, not 3 million. But originally, the affected taxing districts met together to determine the distribution of those funds. Since that time, it's been interpreted that the county kind of has a vote.
Has a what?
Has a vote on how the special districts do their distribution. I haven't been to one of the meetings in quite a while. I don't know if they enforce that, but there were some early years where the county threw their weight around. And that I asked questions about where they were spending the rest of the money. And I was told flat out by a former county commissioner, it was none of my business. So not only as a port representative was it my business, as a Morrow County resident, it was my business. But that's neither here nor there. So 25% value of the project up to a maximum of 3 million is the community service fee. It is set aside for the affected taxing districts. That does not include education unless the other taxing districts choose to make it so.
So it's very similar to the crest.
Actually,
No, the CREZ doesn't have any specific amount set aside.
it seems like the CREZ is more open to spread the money around. That sounds pretty designated to.
Well,
Yeah, it's pretty designated,
if I'm not mistaken, Cardi was a SIP agreement as well
yes.
with the county, and I believe a good percentage of that money went to the new BART building. That's what paid for the BART building. That SIP agreement.
Well, early on, we tried to accomplish that. You know, it just all depends on the special districts involved in the vote, how you can accomplish that. The Port of Morrow is such a small fraction of the taxing. That's why they used to let me go to the meetings, because my vote didn't count. Right.
You got a seat at the table, but now.
Right. So I didn't have to listen, but, anyway, $3 million can be a lot of money to make those taxing districts whole. Or, like you said, that committee can determine that a portion of it should go to a specific purpose.
So let me make sure I understand the history a little bit. The pre-2009 House Bill 2009 applied to the SIP agreement on the data center out here on Falling Range Road, right?
Say that one more time.
So in other words, the port was not a participant
No.
of the SIP agreement on Falling Range Road. What was the outcome of the votes of the taxing district? What was the result of their meeting and the mechanism in place then?
I was no longer a member of that committee. I do not know.
Does anyone know?
I don't have that distribution, but I could easily get that and send it to the board commission.
I'm just curious, because I'm struggling with the problem. Where have we had a problem? Are we fixing a problem? Are we creating a problem? That's where I'm at, trying to figure out, you know.
Well,
where to go.
now we're partners, now we're married, and the county wants us to break up again. And we're married, we we're legislatively forced to work together. I'm telling you, my concern really is it's an incentive, just like the enterprise zone is. The SIP is countywide. They can say all they want in a meeting that, you know, we don't want to come down and do something in the port district, but the county is also a partner to the enterprise zone. So imagine sitting with a client that is investing millions and millions of dollars, and they've got the opportunity to go out and negotiate two different agreements with two different bodies.
Well, we just had that
And
happen.
which one are they going to take?
We just had that happen with a CREZ agreement and a SIP agreement on bombing range. Again, we were competing against each other.
What do you mean? When was the CREZ agreement argument against the seven?
Because we, as the CREZ board, were trying to attract that data center to the CREZ agreement.
No.
And they're like, well, wait a minute, we can use the SIP agreement as a bargaining tool and pit the two against each other.
Okay.
And they can negotiate between the company. Well, and why wouldn't they negotiate? I mean, they're gonna try to get the best deal they can.
Right.
If we're working together, it's kind of hard for them to pit us against each other.
And I will tell you, I think that's the sad thing, is we are trying to work together. We just did the consortium, ordinance so that we could work together for the good of our citizens, and this next act is not working together again. So I just think that we ought to really consider the fact that it's good to be good partners.
And I just want to make one thing clear. The special districts, all they had any say over was the community service fee, which used to be a maximum of 500,000, and now it's a maximum of 3 million, depending on the size of the project.
And don't quote me by numbers, but my last understanding of that is the special districts all got a pretty good chunk of money out of that, and the county kind of didn't get much of anything out of it, if they, in that situation, so.
Because they're.
But see, that's just that one piece.
It's just-
They have control, or
I would-
had control over all the rest of the funds.
I agree, but what I'm saying, they were, the community service fee, they were pretty much cut out. And then all that money went to the special district. What number that was, I don't remember. But I do know that the county was kind of cut out that section of the money.
But that's just the
but-
service agreement, correct?
That's just the community service fee. They got whatever.
They got the other
Yeah, absolutely.
tax deferred.
The big thing I want to remind everybody, and this commission has been that way for years, we've never taken money back, specific amounts of money back in our enterprise zone agreements. We've tried to get those out. It's only up until the last couple of years that we've had to work on trying to turn some of that money back into our infrastructure. Otherwise, we as a commission try to get that money where it belongs, out in the community. And it's only recently that we've done that. I can't see us trying to, this money grabbing just, I don't understand the concept, because we don't need a money grab. The Port of Morrow does not need to be a money grab. It's more about, let's work together for the best interest of everybody, not about money.
So our commitment would be more towards the special districts. I mean, we would be, as a board, we would be thinking more of putting that money back out somewhere than.
Well, I think
Or
we will
special
follow our
projects.
past practice.
Yes, I would just weigh in, and maybe this isn't relevant, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, our latest CREZ 2 meeting, I had to argue for 2.5 hours to get money out to the communities, because one entity wasn't particularly interested in, they wanted to maintain the status quo regardless of the decrease in other areas of the county, getting money out there. And so that's my concern. I guess that'd be just something that I would throw in this big mix of thoughts here. That might be part of the reason people are concerned, honestly.
But Joe, I listened to that meeting. Did you guys not come up to an agreement?
We did, yes.
Yeah, but that's working together.
Okay.
That may not have been what everybody wanted, but everybody agreed to work together and they got to the resolution, which was in the best interest of our communities. So I don't venture us changing our stance here. This commission that is here is about working together with our community partners. It's huge. Anyway, we can meet this with the dead end.
Second the motion to table? Or does that need a second? I'll have to talk about it for a while at the next meeting.
Okay. So,
Motion.
you have a motion to table? Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Joel already.
Oh, sorry.
So this motion to table, this agenda item, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Yes, motion carries, it's on our agenda for our next meeting.
Thank you for the information.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, fourth next is resolution 2025-02, water rate increase.
Okay, we discussed this strictly wastewater rate increase. We discussed this at the last regular session. This is an additional extra 15% increase to the wastewater. We still anticipate through the budgetary process to continue our plan for another 15% July 1.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Rick.
I would move that we approve resolution 2025-02, a resolution of the Port of Morrow Commission, Morrow County, Oregon, establish water rates for Morrow County, or excuse me, Morrow Industrial Park tenants at the rate of $3.82 per 1,000 gallons.
I'll second the motion. This is a resolution versus an ordinance. We don't need to vote whether we read the title or read. Right, let's check.
Just a resolution. I'm with you. Okay, Rick is moving, John seconded to approve resolution 2025-02. Any other discussion? On there. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Rick, you said you had to go,
They do.
maybe? Okay, any?
Are we almost done or?
Yeah.
Do we have?
There's no executive. No
No executive session. We don't. So much to-
Okay.
Anything?
I'm just gonna ask for any other business that you want to bring up.
I just have a request that we all received a letter from City of Oregon. I'd like to have that as an agenda item for our next meeting to discuss at least the beginning thoughts of it, especially in light of the fact that one of the meetings I attended where Commissioner Wentholz, where he was commenting, I wish I could tell you which meeting it was, but but having to do with deciding who the fire service provider would be for Morrow County side, whether it be Oregon Fire or Boardman Fire, and he basically said, hey, you know, I would entertain, and if I'm speaking out of turn, I'm sure, I hope he corrects me, that I would like the landowner to come to us and say what they prefer. And so I would like to discuss as the likely landowner, what our thoughts are, at least begin the discussion, even if we don't come to a positive, whatever decision. I'd like to begin the discussion.
Okay, we'll put that on the agenda.
Okay.
Anything else?
When's the next meeting?
Next
Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
That's it.
Okay.
Right. This was just.
And you plan to have the budget committee again on the agenda, and this time we're hoping that you have someone that you all can take action on to fill the budget committee.
Come ahead.
Is everything filled?
Who needs to?
Who needs to?
I told everybody last month,
got mine.
whoever that is.
I got mine.
Okay.
Yours.
I'm gonna have to look at my email.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm sorry.
So if someone's representing me, that can continue. I was appointed, so, I don't remember who.
I think you better confirm that they're willing.
I'll do that. I'll at least introduce myself.
There you go. Hey, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay, with that, that's about, what time, 3:04, or adjourn our meeting.